Great. Okay. What a great day. Right. We've got a blog post from Hytale to break down today. What on earth is that about? Can you believe that? I'm pretty stoked for this. I was not prepared. Although I know in the video you just watched, I was saying that it was highly likely that we would get a summer update. I was not expecting something of this depth and technical level. So I guess for those of you that don't know, let me pull it up on the screen here, and hopefully everything works. Fingers crossed. You can probably see the Hytale footage from the legacy engine there on the screen, and I know that the graphic says that I'm with Hugo, Powerbyte, and Ryan here, but Powerbyte and Hugo I do not believe are available, so I'm going to be joined by Mine from the Hytale podcast, and Ryan is also here, so we'll be able to dig into this. So let's pull this up because it's pretty interesting. I want to make sure that I get it right here. Here we go. Let me unmute for this, okay? I'll get into the VC with the guys. Let me know if the audio's okay, or if there's anything wrong with that. Hey everyone! Sorry, I don't know. I don't know why it sounded like a. Welcome back. All right, you guys good? We got a blog post, and I'm also live with people as well as I know Mine's live as well, and then we've got Ryan here. Well, we were gonna have a bunch of people with some more technical background join us, but the timing and time zones are a thing. No, dude, I am. He tweeted out 199 days, and then we were right there. One day later. Dude. So, I mean, do you guys just want to go through the blog post? Like, sort of bit by bit, and sort of talk about some things? Break down. Okay. Did Hypixel, like, actually tweet about this, by the way? Like, did they have words with the tweet? Yeah, like in the actual tweet, yeah. Let me check it. Interesting. Okay. But it at least lets us know. Yeah, that this is the intro to what we're getting, right? Which is a breakdown of the Flex components and the ECS stuff. Let me pull up the page here. Okay, so hey everyone, today we're going to take a quick peek behind the curtain of some technology. Yep, all that, and then we've got this weird little graphic here, which is sort of interesting. I don't know. When I saw this, I got pretty excited because it's like. I don't know, it feels like meta, like it's talking to us outside of the blog post talking to us, right? Like, confused? That's okay. I don't know what you guys thought about it when I saw this. I was pretty surprised, but it's filled me with a bit of hope just reading it. That this is, like, obviously a pretty technical blog post with a bunch of technical information. I'll scroll down now to load and show everyone in chat. But when you go back up, it's like, it's separate from our standard development updates. So I don't know what you guys thought about that. Okay, chat was telling me that they couldn't hear my Discord audio because I'm a terrible streamer, but I fixed it. It's fixed. You should be able to hear everyone now. We haven't said much, okay? So. Oh,
that's awesome. So you were just talking to yourself, basically.
So I was basically just talking to myself, as usual, as with every stream that I ever do. It just seems like I can never figure out audio sources, but hey-ho, we'll try again. Okay, so yeah, right. So for hopefully everyone heard me at least talking that this is a peek behind the curtain at some of the technology underpinning Hytale's engine with a specific focus on one of the frameworks products we recently announced, Flex, which is a lightweight and powerful entity component system. Okay, and then I also said this graphics.
Which may I add, we did get an Ask Hytale about.
We did.
They did talk about Flex already.
We did indeed. Yeah, Flex has been something that we've spoke about a little bit on the channel. Okay, yeah, chat says they can hear us all. It's all good. They've talked about Flex a little bit on the channel. It's sort of a part of the engine. Again, I'm not super technical, guys. So at the end of the day, that's why I've got people here in this call that can break it down for us. But we'll get into it.
I do not know anything. I'm just here for the vibes.
Well, I think the blog post explains it a little bit, right? But I mean, at least we know that there's
I
clarification.
think the blog post tells you everything you need.
This is definitely a technical, different thing from like a regular update, which I think is important to clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that the images they gave us are super helpful.
Okay, so they talked about the decision to reboot the Hytale engine, switching from a Java server and C# client to building both on C++. There were many reasons for making this change. We wanted to ensure we could release the game across multiple platforms. We wanted to improve our performance when targeting lower spec devices. And we wanted to build a core engine that was robust enough that we'd be able to patch and maintain the game into the future. So, like, again, it's not things that we don't know already. Like, we kind of already got the idea that, like, this is sort of one of the reasons why I guess there was the delay back in 2021, so going back 3 years now. You know, we knew that they wanted to go cross-platform. We knew that they wanted to try and improve like what was possible on low-spec devices, but it is good to hear that that's still like one of their core things.
Yeah, because that was a thing that I was super excited about when, you know, back in 2019 when they talked about the fact that you could run Hytale on like a really potato laptop. And the fact that they're still aiming for that, because that was an issue for me when I was getting into Minecraft. I mean, Minecraft it's a block game, but it's hard to run. You need at least some sort of computer to run it, and my laptop back then could not. And so this is hopefully gonna allow a lot of people with a less, you know, beefy setup to play Hytale.
It also begs the question, I guess, like because they're making it obviously for mobile devices as well, so it has to be able to run on a mobile. It has to be able to run on, you know, like lower end PCs as well. So I'm trying to think if that will, and this has always been a worry since they announced the cross-platform, like whether that will limit anything. You know, depending on how much they value like pure parity, like same features across every device. I'm actually curious.
I don't think that's an issue anymore in 2024 though, because phones have gotten so powerful. I mean, my phone is stronger than a lot of lower end laptops. They can run some crazy graphics. I mean, Genshin Impact's a perfect example of that.
I'm curious, what do you think about that, Ryan, specifically, like in terms of low spec stuff?
I'd say especially them switching towards using Flex, which is a fairly lightweight and performant framework. Performance of a game is very much tied to the accessibility of it, as you know, mine was touching on it a bit as well, which is if less people can play the game at a decent performance, that's less people playing the game. Because it sucks to, you know, boot up Minecraft on a lower end PC and, you know, notice that your frame rate is visible, the game might be choppy, and maybe that restricts people from having mods as well. So I'd say it's very important that they're making that switch over, both in terms of like server and client, because their server used to be Java and their client used to be C#, to one like a unified code base. I don't know how they were doing it before so that they didn't have completely separate code bases on the client and server. But it can get really annoying from a development perspective and really not sustainable to maintain a completely separate server and client. And then on top of that, working in an environment and getting to sort of rebuild that engine up from the bare bones, caring about performance and accessibility on like different devices from the start. Like that's an awesome sign. That's an awesome sign for both the amount of people who be able to play the game and also like the hardware you'll need to run it.
I guess I wanted to ask a question from more like a, I guess like tech for dummies kind of perspective, right? So they're creating this engine, and you know, when I think about engines, I think about like Unity, like Unreal Engine. Am I like?
Yeah.
I'm thinking in the right line. So is it normal for games to go off and make their own engines, or do they usually like branch off only a little bit? Like, how much of a step away from the norm is it for Hytale to be like making this decision of like building their own engine? Like, one, is that significant just across all of the gaming industry, or not? And then two, like, yeah, I think that was one of my worries, the fact that they were doing it on 2 different code bases. Always like confused me when I was trying to understand it going back, but now they've sort of unified it. Does that make it more of an official engine? Like, how does that work?
I'd say it depends on the game a lot. When you see games like first-person shooters and you know, vehicle-based games and games like that, there's a lot of tools which are already built into engines like Unity and like Unreal, like you mentioned, where like these engines already have like really advanced rendering pipelines and you know, asset loaders and all these things that make you know, your first-person shooter game easier to build. But then when you look at a voxel game or a game like Hytale, you've got very specific technical needs and a very high need for performance. And a lot of game engines don't focus on, you know, voxel-based experiences. And optimizing a voxel game is very different from optimizing a non-voxel game, because, you know, there's tons of different ways. When you look at Teardown versus Minecraft, there's very specific needs that you have for a game like Hytale and a game like Minecraft, where they're definitely doable in commercial engines, but like working in your own engine gives you a lot more control. And I think
Is
for
Teardown
Hytale's,
a unique engine?
I am fairly certain they are.
Because that's a pretty impressive
their rendering
engine.
pipeline. The rendering pipeline is completely proprietary, and I'm fairly certain their engine. Yes, their engine is completely custom. I believe it was developed by Voxagon, which is one.
Yeah, because there's like nothing out there similar to Teardown.
Yeah, and you see that where you've got these specific games, especially Hytale. When you think about UGC or user-generated content, their sort of desire to make a very moddable game. Doing a custom engine like can likely support that better as well. And when it comes down to like, I guess the second half of your question was more in the genre of like the separate code bases. That's also something that kind of confused me initially. Them going for a Java server and a C# client. I think the goal might have been, again, this is just inference because we have no idea. But the goal might have been that your client needs to be more portable. It needs to be you need to be able to run Hytale on mobile devices and consoles as well. And Java is harder to run on mobile devices, on iPhones and on consoles. So the goal might have been originally with that, you know, go with a C# client so that it can be more portable and more, you know, feasible for multi-platform. And a Java server, maybe only computers could run the servers realistically, which also probably wouldn't have been ideal. And the other thing is they might have found a way to sort of get around this, but working in those separate code bases means that you're working in 2 entirely different programming languages, which is a lot of work. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into development, sort of DevOps and maintaining that environment. And it means you're split across 2 different programming languages and 2 different code bases when working on a feature. So their new approach, which is, you know, going all for this C++ and Flex-based engine, sort of built on some of the Forge stuff, gives me a lot more hope that that'll be a bit more unified, and it hopefully should be less work going into. I wouldn't say less work, but sort of less. There's not that split between the two programming languages, which can add sort of development complication. So hopefully the new engine will be a lot easier to work in for the team.
Okay.
A lot more practical.
I followed that. Hopefully everyone who's sort of in the curiosity region of not understanding that sort of stuff have got it. But okay. Let's move down a little bit. So clearly they want to establish that. By the way, this is a whole post, and it's like really long. By the way, guys, we have got a lot.
There's
to
a
go
lot
through
of information here,
and so we will make sure
It's
to like
very
speed
well
through
written,
this. But to be sure, like this is just a focus on what is effectively like a backbone, or like one of the many parts of the backbone of the engine of Hytale, right? And that's what they're really giving us a look at. And then I assume the next part is going to go into specifically like, you know, what an ECS is, an entity component system, and then explaining a few other things like that. So I guess we can move down and talk about the next section. This from one 3-letter acronym to another. What are we thinking with this section? So it's not a new concept. It's not uncommon in game development. Apparently it was a few years ago though, so it was a little bit more uncommon, but it's sort of recently become about a lot more. So it can be complex when first encountered, so I imagine that's why they've made this really, really long blog post to break it down. Of course, that makes sense. So the next part talks about object-oriented programming, so the OOP model, or the entity component or actor component architectures. I guess in more simplistic terms, what I'd see this as is like the system that controls the things that move around in the game. But maybe that's too simplified, but like things like NPCs, different characters and mobs, and even the player, right? They're all ran on this system, if I'm to be believed that I'm right, potentially. I don't know. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, you cut out.
Did he die or did I die?
I think his mic.
Is my internet okay?
Yeah, it's all good. Don't worry.
We'll
We'll let you know.
we're good.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know when it cuts out.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess ECS is a fairly new pattern or sort of paradigm in game development. It's been around for a decently long time, but it's been popularized more lately. It's sort of just... the best way to describe ECS is when you're making a game and you're focusing on entities or moving things, they don't even have to be moving. You're focusing on like, how are we defining, what this mob does? And one of the traditional models for that is inheritance, as they sort of mention in the blog post, where you have these these abstract concepts, or in Minecraft, for example, it has a mob, and then a zombie is a mob, and mobs are living entities, and living entities are entities. And you have all these branches, so like under mob you have player, and you have zombie, and you have pig, and you have all of these things. And it's sort of building that out like a tree, where you have a living entity which has health, and then everything that has health will inherit that property from living entity. And that can be really nice for game development, because it means you can define things fairly straightforward. So if Minecraft added a new skeleton, for example, they could inherit from skeleton, and then this new skeleton would by default have all of the behaviors and properties of the skeleton that it's inheriting from.
Okay.
ECS is sort of a different pattern of looking at it, though, where instead of building up entities and these things by inheritance, you're building them up by composition. Or you take a look at that skeleton and you say you're giving it components that define its behavior. So you could give it a bounding box component that defines, this skeleton is 0.8 blocks by 0.8 blocks wide, and it's, 2 blocks tall, and that sort of thing. And then you might be giving it a physics component that defines that, this entity has physics, and it'll move around, and it'll react to these forces. And you're building up these entities by using a ton of different components. And this both allows opportunities for optimization, as Flex sort of steps in to help with a lot of stuff as well. And it also means, from a modder's perspective, this is what Bedrock Edition does for a lot of its modding. Is in Bedrock Edition, if you want to make a new mob, a lot of it is mixing and matching together different components. So if you're making a boat, you're adding a component that says that it can float. You're adding a component that says this thing is a vehicle, people can ride in it. And from a modder's perspective, if they're exposing this type of stuff to modders, that means it can be very easy to mix and match these things in Hytale, which is what they touched on in this section as well. Sort of transitioning over to this also, popular game architecture, a way of structuring objects, instead of their old method. It's also very well written, if I can just say that. This blog looks like it's very well written. It's sort of explaining a very technical concept, but the diagrams and stuff, I think, are pretty amazing.
I think it helps to, at least get across the idea of there's like this categorization system, at least to the point where you don't need to make a separate, if you needed to come up with like new mobs after the fact, because one of the things they mentioned above in the post as well was the fact that this also helps us patch the game in future and further update it and things. So would I assume an ECS and the use of Flex is going to help in the fact that they can just come by and be like, oh yeah, we designed the game to be able to just add new content rather than having to like figure out all of that after the fact, which I know a lot of games have had to do. Unfortunately, they've just sort of ran into that issue by the natural process of things, but that seems to be what I'm picking up here. Other than the only other amazing things that it can do, right, with NPCs and stuff.
It's definitely a ECS is a very, very supportive of that sort of content creation and modding, because it's seen a lot within Minecraft Bedrock as well, and a lot of modern games that also use entity component system, is that using this paradigm means that from a modder's perspective or from a game developer's perspective, if you have to go back and change how components work, or if you have to you have to like change how a mob works, change the behavior, add new mobs, add new content. But we've yet to see sort of how much Hytale uses the entity component system. We don't know if stuff like chunks or sections of terrain are using that system, or if they're using a sort of separate system. But it's definitely a good sign, at least for the moddability of the game and for how future-proof it is. I think the Hypixel has been very focused on that whole designing everything so that 5 years in the future, it'll still be easy to work with from a modder perspective and from like their perspective as developers.
So the way I understood it is that it's once you create like one of those systems, like for example, you said a boat like can interact, can float, you can copy paste that, and once you have it, you can just create a whole bunch of new things super easily, because you can just apply those traits, I think is what they called it, onto the new object. If you're not using the ECS, would you have to recreate that for every single new object? Is that
it's not quite that you have to recreate that behavior. It's that it can get a bit here. I'll try and think of an example. So if you have, let's say like I'm making a game and I have like a zombie and a pig in the game, and they're both separate entities, right? And then I also have a boat, and when I'm making my boat, I say I want this thing to float in water, and so I add that behavior to the boat. And then I realize, hey, you know what? I also want my zombie and my pig to be able to float in water. So what that means is either I'm going to have to copy this behavior from the boat to the zombie and the pig, or I'm going to have to move this behavior to somewhere where the zombie and the pig and the boat all inherit from. And so this sort of creates... ECS has this whole... You mentioned with the traits, where if I make this component that says this thing can float, or the system that manages entities floating, then I can apply that to any entity pretty much just by adding that component, or that trait to them. And in the inheritance model, it's not that you have to copy this behavior all over the place, but it's that you can sometimes get these messy trees of inheritance, where you want this behavior into entirely different types of mobs, and that means either you have to add it to their most common ancestor, so you have to add this behavior to all entities, or all entities that these inherit from, or you have to copy it or make a separate thing that both of them use. So it's really just another way of structuring stuff. It's a very modding-friendly way of structuring stuff. Some of the previous studios I've worked for, we used entity component systems there, and it leads into this thing called data-oriented development as well, or data-driven development, where you can sort of define entities in a very modular way. So if I'm creating a boat in Minecraft Bedrock Edition, or in an entity component system driven game, there's a good chance that I can I can make a new entity, I can give it the floating component, I can give it a vehicle component, and then different systems will manage all those entities that have these components and make them float, and stuff like that. So it's just a different way of structuring a game, sort of architecting a game. And ECS is very friendly toward performance as well. Which is a pretty good sign.
Someone in chat said, I hope that they have unlimited world height and length. Well, I mean, we had evidence that going off, and it's kind of a tangent here, sorry, from what you were saying, Ryan, but we remember that leak that we got where it was like this big diagram of like the cubic chunks and everything? From what I remember from that did mean that technically your height could be limitless, but I might be remembering wrong there.
So we don't have exact clarification on whether or not height is limitless or not. I think that's probably up to like how they're designing the game. when it comes to like the technical side of things, cubic chunk loading doesn't necessarily mean that their world height is unlimited. It means the world loading would mean it's a lot easier to make the world unlimited. One of the big like things that happens with a lot of voxel games is that, you know how in Minecraft they've got their lighting engine where, you know, stuff casts shadows
Yes.
if it's really high up. So if you have a block of the sky limit, it's still going to cast a shadow all the way down on the ground. That's one thing a lot of games come into with cubic chunks. There's quite a few games that try cubic chunks. Then they realize they want their lighting system to work from like the top of the world to the bottom of the world. And that means if you're at the bottom of the world or you're very low down, you're, you know, 2,000 blocks down, and in order to know if there's a shadow casted on you, you would have to load all the chunks above that chunk to know if there's any blocks in them. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But in order to know, you know, if there's a block 5,000 blocks up that's casting a shadow, a lot of games sort of run into that hurdle there. So, I mean, there's also different ways of architecting lighting systems that don't encounter that issue. I think it's mainly just up to how high they want their world to be. Cubic chunks are definitely, they definitely mean that type of thing would be something that could be pursued a lot easier. Minecraft's model for chunks is column-based, so doing higher world heights means you have, you know, if you want a 2 times higher world height, that means you have 2 times more chunks loaded at one point in time.
Right.
And that's a lot of performance, and that's a lot of memory usage. So,
I know it
yeah,
sounds weird.
I think it's just up to what they want.
I'd love to just slide the render distance slider on Hytale and just see like all of that stuff load. Or just like, oh, I can imagine like the scale of some of those things loading in. It's gonna be so cool.
Also,
yeah, go for it.
just touching on it, that one image you mentioned, the poster. There were 2 other things. I posted it in the VC chat. I don't know if the stream can see that, but they posted it, and there were a few things as well. They said chunk entities. And if you look there in the chunk entity section, it says an entity in the entity component system, holding all components of a chunk. So this sort of leads me to believe that maybe they're using the entity component system even for their chunks, which means, you know, they're using this in every aspect of the game.
I'm trying to
which is
figure out
pretty
which
awesome.
chat this is real quick. Oh, I see now. Yep,
It's
okay,
in
I
the,
got it,
yeah,
I
it's
got it,
right
I got
there.
it. Yep, let me pull this up real quick. But yeah, no, you can.
This
you
one's
can keep
perspective corrected.
going. There we go. I think.
So that's pretty compelling. I mean, they have chunk entities and tile entities mentioned there, along with sort of the chunk grid. They do mention columns. I don't know if that means they do, you know, column-based chunk loading or cubic-based chunk loading. But it's pretty exciting to see that, you know, even though chunks are in an entity component system, they're probably, I mean, those being in Flex as well means that sort of everything's using this like one united system for how, you know, entities are made up, which is, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, because like I mean, it seems maybe a bit unusual to think about, but like I always just noticed there was always this like weird implication in the way they worded certain things, like even on this graphic of how there's like a link between the literal structure of like the worlds and the chunks and like all the blocks that go in it, as well as like linking that heavily into like the ECS, like the entities and stuff like that, right? Like,
yeah, if they're using the same systems for, you know, Trorks and entities as they are for chunks and stuff. Well, I think there's the other thing there where Minecraft has Minecraft and other voxel games like Vintage Story sometimes can struggle with chunk loading performance. Now nowadays they've gotten a lot better with that. But Flex provides some pretty awesome querying tools, or tools that can speed up large quantities of entities a ton. So Hytale using those systems for chunks as well raises some sort of questions in, like, questions of how performant that stuff will be. Using like Flex for chunks is a pretty good call in my opinion, but it's sort of cool that they're using the same. Minecraft has a very differing system. Minecraft has blocks, entities, particles, and chunks, and you know, all those things. And a chunk is nothing like an entity. They're completely different things, right? And when
so
people
Minecraft
are modding
uses them all separately.
yeah, and
Alright,
that means
okay.
if I'm making, you know, a mod that interacts with entities, you know, none of that stuff is going to transfer over to chunks. So if I assume that'll be sort of the case for Hytale as well, where it doesn't make sense to like you know, apply an entity component onto a chunk. But it is kind of reassuring that they're keeping all this stuff in mind and trying to build it all around this like entity component system.
So this graphic that I have up on the stream, it's the one where it's like components, entities, like the orange and blue. I mean, I know these are all like standard like game terminology and everything, and nothing particularly new here. But I just wanted to go through like the some of the phrasing and stuff, like the inventory, stats, model, controller input, behavior. Like all seem like, I don't know, just something maybe worth mentioning. And then this bit at the bottom that says this makes it a creature. This whole idea of like the behavior, which I don't know. I'm like super eager to get into like the breakdown of. Like, as much as I love this backbone, I want to see the rib cage, you know? I want to see what this then extends out to. So, like, what different behaviors can mobs go through? Like, do they have different mood swings? And, like, this whole idea of, like, these mobs having, like, a fuzzier behavior, right? This idea of them being able to make all sorts of, like, almost randomly influenced decisions based on a specific pattern. That all is pretty interesting to talk about as well, I think. Also, controller...
Yeah, I think a lot of the components... Oh yeah, I think a lot of the components they put for demonstration purposes at the bottom probably, so you probably can't infer too much when it comes to like what the actual components mean. We need like a whole theory video about what the chair entity is. You gotta get on that.
I feel like
10-minute video coming up.
Maybe there's a story
10-minute
about
video.
it. The first Hytale entity was like a wooden chair or something maybe. We got Buttercat in the chat, community manager of Hypixel Studios. What's up, dude? How's it going? Thank you for gracing us with your presence and also a technical blog post. We appreciate it greatly.
What's up, Buddha? What's up?
What's up? Yeah, I'd love to infer on, you know, controller input component and its meaning for the game, but I think that's probably
does it mean keyboard controller or does it mean controller?
Well, it's probably both, you know, but I think those are just like an example they sort of laid out to give an example of what a component system could be used for.
What kind of controllers do you think are possible? Do you think we're going to be able to use more than just like a standard Xbox or PlayStation controller? Do you think we'll be able to use like
I don't think that's something
or...
we can. I don't think that's something we can infer from this blog. I mean, I'd hope if they're going for, you know, console and mobile stuff that we'd be able to use. We'd be able to use controllers on our computers as well. That'd be pretty nice. But...
So, the council's got an interesting.
I know that there's.
Oh, sorry. Go for it, man.
No, you go first.
It's a tangent. It is a tangent.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. I was going to say the council said from a lore perspective, how does making a new world work? If the main world was made by someone like us, then when we make our own worlds, does that mean we'll have full control over our world? I thought that was a pretty interesting question because that's something that I think the team's touched on a little bit. So the fact that, like, I guess going into the lore of adventure mode for Hytale, we know Gaia is like a player, right? She's like an avatar like us, so we can infer that she is almost equal to a player. And I guess Orbis being the world that we know she's the god of Orbis, quote unquote. So she made Orbis. So this idea that, like, does that mean that when we go off and make our own experiences and worlds, do we have as much capability as Gaia? And I think that's an interesting point because that's something that the team have talked on a lot, is giving us all the tools, if not most of the tools, to make what they've used to make the game, right? So, like, we can take those created tools and make our own version of Orbis. You know, granted, we may need a 100-person team to get it done, but I think that was, like, kind of one of the points they were touching on. And a little bit more time, yeah, perhaps. I know that Buddha will feel that in the chat.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean, they also said that. Didn't they also say that there's like only one avatar per world or something like that?
I don't know if they ever specifically said that, but like, because I've always had it in my own little head canon, and this has never been confirmed like at all. But like the idea that if Gaia is an avatar, then also does that mean Baron is, or is he like what would he be then? Like, you know what I mean? Like that I've always tried to understand that. But like taking it away from the lore a bit, because I know this is a bit more of a technical thing, and I know you guys will have something to say about this. I mean, one, we've got an update from Hypixel Studios, and someone in the chat said, please make a post like this once every 3 months. Technical stuff is awesome to learn more about. And I think that, like, I think people will be conflicted on that. Like, some people will be here for the, you know, the release date and the trailer and the video gameplay. But some people will also be very interested in... Well, I feel like that we've got two sides of the coin here, because I'm not the most technical person in the world. But Ryan is definitely, like, interested in all of this stuff, like, to a maximum degree.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And then we've got you, mine, as well, which I don't know what side of the coin you really fall on, but, like...
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just like you. I do not understand this blog post. I'm letting Ryan explain this all to me. And I'm not really too excited about this, because it just doesn't speak to me. It's not my language.
It is a lot.
So like I'm excited that they're sharing it, obviously, because I'm a Hytale fan, but like I can't take too much away from it.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the type of thing. It's pretty important, and I think a very good move that they're sort of differentiating this from the typical update blog post. Because there's like some Hytale fans out there who, you know, if they don't really understand the technical side, nor, you know, is it the most interesting to them, but they care about the game a lot. So they want to see stuff like gameplay, they want to see stuff like screenshots and postcards. And then there's the technical side of the community, which are also interested in this sort of stuff. And I think the team did a pretty good job of breaking this blog post down to a level where if you're not like completely totally into the technical side, you can still sort of understand what it means for the game, especially in the later sections.
I love that.
But at the same time, like, as a player, if I only cared about the technical side of thing and they didn't have... I don't know how to put this. It's like, I think the disclaimer they sort of had in the beginning was very important. This is not a typical gameplay blog post. This is a this is a technical blog post.
I think
people, and Buddha also...
Yeah, go for it, man.
Buddha also kind of confirmed that this is not... Like, these are two separate... There's a new type of blog post now, and it is this technical explainer. And it does not interfere, let's say, with the developer update. Because I tweeted to him, like, hey, you know, a technical blog archetype was not part of my 2024 bingo. And he's like, times are changing, update your bingo card. Kind of, you know, hinting that, you know, these are going to be different types of blog posts. And I mean, that cute Quebec, if you want to pull that up on your stream too.
Yeah, I got it. Yep.
It says this is a technical blog post is separate from our standard developer updates.
Yeah, I think it's very important that they differentiated that. And I think this is a big thing as well, is it shows that Hypixel Studios as a team is learning as well, that they need to make sure that, you know, they don't get people too excited, and also make sure that they are communicating on exactly what it is that they're giving us, especially, you know, after going so long without like these giant big updates as we had come to expect from the game. And I think it's also important as well. People may be wondering why I'm not like a little bit more angry that we haven't got like gameplay footage or anything, and it's this graphic right here, like saying that, look, at the end of the day, we know that we're getting that engine reveal, and we know that it is like getting ready to, you know, it feels like this is almost like the beginning of a fire, right? Where they're now starting to reference the engine and the things and the components and the parts of the engine that make it run. You know, they've always said that they'll let us know when things are coming, and this feels very much like that, right? The fact that it does
feel like a pre-warning. Yeah,
they very much could have called this the summer development update definitively, and that would have been our summer update, right? But they made that distinguishing difference, which I think is really, really important to take note of. So I'm not too worried about like not seeing anything specific gameplay wise, where I know that there is a large segment of the audience that probably wants to see that. Just know that this is as equally cool to all of the technological people and the modders and the people that really want the behind the scenes stuff. So this is like gold dust for some of those guys as well. And I know that the ECS thing was announced and the Flex stuff was announced, but to have it broken down in this capacity, I think is really cool. So yeah, really appreciate that.
And I think from the perspective of people who aren't on the technical side either, there's a lot of people who get frustrated because they think, you know, Hypixel's doing nothing. And they're doing a lot of stuff. They're doing a lot of work. A lot of stuff's happening behind the scenes. And this sort of gives them that window into the, like, you know, even if it's not sharing gameplay, it's sharing technical stuff that's also important. Stuff is happening. You know, it's an update, and that's very nice.
Yeah, so I'm moving down the blog post down to ECS in the legacy engine. because I think I kind of skimmed over this section a little bit when I was reading through it. I don't know if any of you guys read it a bit more thoroughly and understand it, but anything that mentions the legacy engine, I'm pretty interested in, because it gives us a little bit of context into, you know, the delay, the old stuff that they were working on, and then hopefully maybe it gives us a little bit of an update on the timeline of the new engine, right? By sort of, you know, vice versa, kind of. Yeah, let me just read through this. I'm reading with you guys right now. So
I think this is also an indicator that we're going to see a lot more technical blog posts just talking about different things and things that we might be able to understand more. I mean, we've had a blog post in the past that just talks about rendering or world generation, and I think those are going to be in the future grouped along more with these, because that's more technical. I would imagine that if they do like an updated world generation one and they strictly talk about the world generation, it's going to be a technical explainer instead of a developer update. And then the developer updates are going to be more about the game itself. I mean, both are the game, obviously, but I think now that they have this differentiation,
yeah, I think it's important to note
it
as well, this was tweeted by Hypixel Studios account rather than the Hytale account. You know, as much as it is on the Hytale website, it's like, I think, yeah, they made that distinguishing like factor known. So that's good, and yeah, that differentiation is important. And then obviously they are being very communicative, and I think one of the most important things that I guess we haven't mentioned as well is the fact that, you know, one of the big contentions around Hytale has been this delay, right? This quote unquote delay that everyone sort of throws the term around like it's you know, it was a while ago now. You know, it was a long time ago when we got delay, and we've continued to be hopeful at every sort of 6-month milestone that we'll get a big update. But I think that one of the things they're touching on here is why it took so long and why that delay had to happen, and it was to do with sort of some components of the ECS. And I know I hate to ask you for more just technical explainers, Ryan, but in terms of the ECS sort of maybe being something that took them a while to work on, I know it mentions it here in the blog post, but how do you think that might maybe affected it? And do you think there's other parts that they haven't mentioned yet that probably did take them a long time to get right and figure out as well?
I can say we can't really like predict the exact things, you know, the reasons they had this quote unquote delay.
Yeah.
It definitely is a lot of work and a lot of learning and transitioning to go over from, you know, their old engine to an entity component system and working with the Forge like they are now on sort of those core aspects of their engine. We do know, yeah, they spoke in the blog post about how they tried an ECS out on the legacy engine as well. So there's probably that period of them figuring out sort of the future, where they wanted to go with the technology, and then, you know, evaluating it on the old engine and then going full steam ahead with it on the new engine. I think it's the type of thing where we can't really predict why they made their delay, but it's something like an ECS is definitely a transition over from working with a more traditional object-oriented strategy of working with entities and stuff.
I love this part that they say as well. It's if done correctly, we could make it easy for modders to provide data that would influence the behaviors of the game with practically no technical knowledge. Like,
yeah.
I know that the team talk about accessibility a lot, at least in regards to like, you know, probably how the game will be marketed, but also like the adventure mode and also the access to like loads of different tools and the servers. But like also, I guess, accessibility in just being able to do more in the ecosystem that thrives from it. You know, whether it's being able to much more easily create 3D models or rigs or like different mobs and AI and stuff, and be able to like, I don't know, kind of plug and play, so to speak, with all sorts of different like features, rather than you know, having to figure it all out, download third-party softwares, like go online, watch 5 YouTube tutorials about it. It feels like it's going to be a lot more accessible in the fact that the behind-the-scenes stuff is there as well. At least like in regards to like easy access tools, things labeled a bit more simply, probably, like for some certain things. I don't know. I feel like it's really interesting, the idea of like, you know, a young like up-and-coming game designer or someone really interested in modding that's never done coding at school or anything like that, sort of coming up and learning through this engine and this platform is really cool to think about. And then obviously knowing that ECS implementation can help with that as well in terms of performance and accessibility is really cool. So yeah.
I think it's gonna be a real dummy test when you and I get our hands on it, and if we're able to create something, I think they've done a good job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if I can make a mob like actually function as somewhat of a comprehensible
yeah, it doesn't
creature,
like break the map.
Yeah, I think that
Then I
would
think
be
they've
cool.
done a good job in making it, you know, dummy proof.
I think the thing is as well. I had the experience of, you know, like playing Minecraft for like over a decade of just going through that ecosystem and trying to figure out how everything worked, because there was really no like simple everything all together solution. And obviously it's improved over the years with all sorts of different things like custom like launchers and third party stuff. But back in the day, like having to learn all of that, I remember I had to learn Hamachi, how to like forward port my IP. Like port forwarding your IP to try and get like your friends to connect on a server through Hamachi. And like that
now
was like,
it's literally just a mod. You download Essentials, I think it is, and you can just play a multiplayer game without having to buy a server. It's crazy.
And like even the fact that there is just like servers with hundreds of people on and it all sort of, I'm not gonna say like runs smoothly, but like that experience for me was so trial and error, as opposed to what I feel like Hytales will be. I feel like people will get to the stage that I got to a lot quicker in regards to like, I did eventually like, you know, go on to do some marketplace maps and concept mobs, and I even got like one animation into a map once, which I was pretty proud of, but that was the last of my Blender efforts. Hopefully in Hytale it'll be a bit easier. I think that would be really cool. I can't wait to stream like making my first custom Hytale thing, like because the tools
you know
will
would
just
be a fun
that cool.
stream idea. You
Go
know,
for it.
dude, like a model maker versus, like we both get 3 hours. We have to make something.
Oh, that's awesome. That would be so cool.
And see what comes out afterwards.
Dude, we could do like
a full...
It's just gonna be us yelling at the model maker, being like, "Why are you not doing what we're trying?"
We could do like a battle royale with it and have like a tournament or something. Everyone tries to make the best mobs.
A model maker tournament, and like actually have the best community artists battle it out and have chat vote on it.
Here's what's crazy: we
You're
put it all into
put them in game too.
we put it all into a mod pack at the end of it, all packaged up, nice and
That'd be
neat.
so sick.
Dude,
write that down somewhere.
Write this somewhere. Yeah, I was already getting a pen. Hold on.
That actually sounds so much fun.
So I mean,
hello guys, by the way.
Oh, hey Hugo. Hey everyone.
Oh,
Hugo's here. I know you joined a while ago, and you were just sitting here. I was waiting to see when you
talk. Didn't want to interrupt.
Hugo Trog, how are you feeling, dude, about blog post?
Man, I haven't even read it yet. I was out, and I slept.
Dude,
we're going over it on stream a bit.
Yeah, we're going through it. So I mean, if like you're still reading through it, we're only at a reliable foundation for a new engine. So we're pretty slowly just discussing everything from the post. So feel free to add any input whenever you feel. Yeah, what's that?
I want to know how Hytale Spins covers this.
Oh, me too. I'm excited for the Hytale Spins video.
How in the world are they going to construe this blog post?
For anyone who is not aware, there is an AI-run channel called Hytale Spins in the Hytale YouTuber community, and they literally just take mine's videos and his podcast footage and just like generate a script around it and then just use the footage, and they are just horrific. They just constantly do that, and it's always interesting to see how they cover a story, because it's usually how does the AI grasp what other people have said about the story rather than actually taking it from any actual source. So it'd be cool to see what they say on the subject. They might even use this live stream, who knows?
Oh my god. Well, we've actually never tested that, if they can take a live stream. I know they only take YouTube videos.
We'll have to see.
That'd be funny.
So this is about the new engine. I'm talking about when they rebooted it, they wanted to keep using the ECS that they made, but extend it to the client as well because it was only server-side at the time. They wanted to reap the benefits. Shift to C++ would mean there could be other frameworks out there, ones we wouldn't have to build and maintain ourselves with cutting-edge features that would push the boundaries of the paradigm. Yeah, because they said they've used a lot of the features that Flex provides. Like they've really leaned into it and used it. And I think they said earlier in the post that is what they use in like Unity and Unreal Engine as well. They utilize a lot of the tools that Flex gives. I say that like I know the tools that Flex gives. I certainly don't. But, yeah,
There's a lot.
yeah, I can only imagine there's quite a lot to get into. So let's see here. Out of the box, it gives a variety of features, it comments most ECS implementations, along with excellent performance and multi-platform compatibility. So that's good to hear. We spoke about that a little bit. Just this extra, ability to do multi-platform, which I know has like been a big goal of theirs.
Oh, we've got Hawk on too.
Hey,
Good
Hawk,
party.
how's it going, dude?
He's deafened. He's
He's deafened. We'll speak to him soon. And let's take full advantage of its smart. So I am just reading this on the stream, but like, feel free to anyone hop in at any point if you've got anything to say that you think is cool. Because I'm still trying to analyze it in my brain to figure out how I can break this down to people.
Oh, same. Oh my god. That's why I love talking about new posts or blog posts on the Hytale podcast first, because it lets me just like dissect everything first before actually sitting down and be like, okay, how do I explain this? So rambling is a super helpful thing, be it in VC or the podcast, for example.
So I see this paragraph's about like child parent relationships, not in the most literal sense, but in regards to components being linked together. And so this idea that I imagine that's like almost like this sub layer of categories, right? Where it's like you've got all these different categories and behaviors set to certain categories, and there's that tree that you explained earlier. But then also this idea that certain categories themselves can share relationships, so there's like patterns within them or something, right? Like that seems to be what the linking to here was kind of mentioning. Find me all entities that entity B likes, like stuff like that is. I don't know what that means.
Well, there's a bit of a parallel here. I suppose I can draw a bit of a parallel to Minecraft's performance. A while ago in the Nether update, do you remember the Nether update?
Oh, do I?
1.16.
Good times.
Yeah. So there was a feature they added in the Nether update where piglins were scared of certain blocks. And certain other entities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they run away from them as fast as possible. And that's sort of a relationship that the piglin has with those things. But because, or another example is bees in Minecraft added in 1.15. They go toward their hives, and they need to know where the other bees are for their pathfinding. And the way Minecraft does its entity queries, or the way for example, those piglins would look for all the blocks around them, and they would look for all the other entities around them, is very slow. And so it meant when the Nether update came out and when the snapshots were going, there were a lot of performance issues that had to be worked through. And Flex has a lot of query systems built like straight into it to help with those sort of searches where you're doing like positional queries. You're saying, what are all the entities within this area? Or you're looking for more broad things, like what are the entities that are scared of this one? Maybe for mob AI, so the mobs like run away. So it's sort of having those query tools is massive for performance on how easy it is to optimize stuff.
See, that's interesting because there was that Ask Hytale about the modding and like the idea of making it so that, if I remember rightly, it was something along the lines of like if your pet smiled at a certain mob, it would like run away, or like something would happen like that, or like it would affect its mood or like change its state. So it's sort of touching on those sorts of more. I guess is complicated relationships. The word is the one where John reads out like the 3 different like things for modding.
It says yes.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah, where it
The
all comes down
pufferfish
to basically just
The pufferfish.
I saw it was something like that, where it was like, oh, if it like interacts with another mob, then the mob will
it
freak
can like
out
scare animals away.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I read that and I thought, yeah, that's like an extra layer that I didn't expect from them. But then it also excites me at how it could be like manipulated when it comes to like modding and changing the aspects of mobs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just running through this.
To make all Quebec scared of players holding torches.
Bruh, I feel like that should already be in the game. That should be like hardcore.
I hope it is.
Find me all NPCs bearing swords that are aggressive to the player. So would that be like, I know this is probably a crude example, but like in a lot of Bethesda games like Skyrim and Fallout, you'll have like the console and you can just type in commands and it will like identify any type of like NPC or quest log or like certain things you can trigger by using the console. Is it kind of like that, where like being able to detect certain NPCs with specific variables, like, you know, the ones that are aggroed
no,
on the
it's
player
just-
and stuff?
Yeah, what they're talking about is just Flex has a query system in it to search through like large quantities of entities for those specific components and specific properties. A lot of entity component systems have query systems in the same way. And the idea behind it is, you know, you're letting Flex handle the optimization of going to search for all these entities with these specific things, and then you in your own systems and in your own code, or you know, Hypixel is caring about what to actually do with those results. So in this case, you know, you may be searching for every single entity with a component that marks them, you know, as aggressive, and then going through those entities or refining your query to say, you know, they have to have this component, an inventory component, and they have to have this item, and stuff like that. And in a game like Minecraft, Minecraft, for example, has very slow queries, because it picks all the chunks, or let's say you're looking for all the entities within a 5-block radius of the player. Minecraft picks every chunk. Minecraft picks a lot of chunks around the player, and then it'll look within every one of those chunks and it'll look at every single entity within all of those chunks, and then narrow it down to the entities which meet the criteria of being within a certain amount of blocks. And what that means is, you know, if you're looking for all entities within, you know, 50 blocks of the player or something like that, or if an entity wants, like a pigman wants to run away from a hoglin, you know, 50 blocks away.
I thought you were
going to
say a piglin run away with
entity.
me.
If a piglin wants to run away from a hoglin, or all hoglins within like 50 blocks, that's a query that you'd have to do. You'd have to say, get me all entities or all hoglins within 50 blocks. And Minecraft will just go through every single entity within 50 blocks. So if you've got a pit with like 500 chicken in it, Minecraft's going to go through each one of those and check if it's a hoglin. And what an entity component system lets you do, is have more advanced queries, where it's a lot more optimized. You just ask, you know, give me all the hoglins within 50 blocks, and it already has all those hoglins basically ready, and it just runs them through a quick query, gives the code all of them. So it basically, what they're saying here is this behavior and using an entity component system to sort of store all of their data and all of the entities makes it easier to optimize mob AI and that sort of stuff, where you really need to be aware of all the entities around things, or all the entities that meet certain criteria.
Someone in chat said, Grim Smile said, Java is more freeing, but making mod packs can be quite the mess, especially when you are trying to merge 300 to 500 mods all together. It not only takes a toll on the game, but can cause a lot of errors. So I was curious, I guess there will inevitably be individual mods, of course, for Hytale, but then the idea of grouping them together. Do you think that's something that will be made easier by anything that's touched on in this blog post at all? Just going off of what Grim's asking in the chat.
I think they'd probably, like, we have no idea what their, like, concept of a mod is yet.
Right.
So we don't know if, like, if the concept of a mod pack is the same in Hytale, as it is in, you know, Minecraft and Terraria and all the current games. I think I'd definitely be excited to see a blog on, you know, how sort of mods are architected in Hytale and what their idea of a mod is, and how those are structured.
I've been waiting for that for like 4 years. I feel like a lot of people have. There was never
that's
really
also
clarification, right?
That's also a big topic. Like
Yeah.
that's a very big topic. So I mean, I can totally understand if that's not something we're going to be made aware of for, you know.
I think because
a long
it
time.
probably is so intrinsically linked with things like not necessarily servers, but like custom player experiences, and then also potentially like if there was a marketplace or like a way for mods to be distributed on in some like visual way, like that would all need to be talked about really together.
Yeah.
I guess if they were gonna really nail it on the head and just get everything clearly across, because otherwise just revealing bits and bobs of like the things that are connecting to each other, it kind of creates that murky vagueness that, you know, like
Creates a loose ends.
Hypixel are trying to get away from that at the moment. Hypixel Studios, like, they want to make
Did
sure that they're being a
someone
lot more
say
serious.
marketplace?
He's here.
Oh,
He's
he's
here.
here.
He's here. Oh
He's
my gosh.
here.
Hey Hawkon, how you doing?
I do think that they're gonna do that announcement about like how modding works in detail before the game comes out. or even
Yeah.
before a beta, or people can play, just so
I
people
mean, if
can
they
prepare
want to test
themselves.
the modding features before the
Yeah.
game.
I would want like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
full-on tutorial. Yeah.
Are you just
Um,
quiet for me? Oh, I have you
I
super
did
low.
see someone comment earlier in the chat. I can't find the message now, but somebody commented on like on hoping that the client would be modifiable, like it is in Minecraft Java. And I think that is one thing we can pretty safely say isn't the case, because they did answer that in a previous
Yes.
blog,
Yeah.
saying the client is not modifiable. But the hope is, and their goal is, that with their toolset you won't need it to be, and with their modding features.
Which is quite a bold statement, but if they really, really are gonna go that route of like giving us everything, then I mean, is that a good enough trade, right? Like, okay, yeah, we can't access the client or modify the client, but we don't need to, right? So it's
Well, the thing is, it's a benefit because, well, you couldn't really have like a client to. You wouldn't have a good option if it was multi-platform, right?
Yeah,
Mods would
and
just
also
be
for security.
fucked.
I was thinking security as well, because it's going to be a
Yeah.
lot
Wait, we're not
more
live, are we?
difficult to
yeah,
create
yeah.
cheats.
We are in fact
We
live.
are live.
Okay.
Taka.
We are live. Don't say anything you wouldn't normally.
All right.
I'd say like a lot of that as well is just like in Minecraft Java, a lot of people, well, there's a lot of people like, I wish when I joined a server in Minecraft Java it would download all the mods. Why can't Mojang just do that? And the thing is, with Minecraft Java, we're working with mods that are, they're literally modifying the game's code and tacking on extra things. So to allow people to log into a server and automatically download all the mods, that's a massive security issue. Because people can put malware in a mod, and then if somebody joined a server, it would automatically download.
Wasn't
So
that an
I
issue with
suppose
TF2?
I'm
I
not
think
familiar with
TF2 had
TF2.
something like that. Because when you join a server, you automatically download all the assets. And
Yeah,
I mean, TF2 has been plagued with hackers, and I think they were able to do malicious things with that.
Yeah, it's not, it's a security risk, right? And so the two ways to get around that, or sort of what Minecraft Vanilla does, with resource packs, where you join a server and it downloads a resource pack of all the resources you need, and then it handles your resources can do a lot of stuff just by themselves, right? They can modify all the textures, a bunch of models, stuff like that. And then there's also games which have an embedded scripting engine. So that's something like Lua, where you have this lightweight programming language that people or modders can write code in to modify the way the game behaves. And then because it's in this like separate language, it's not like modifying or tacking onto the game's code. The game can run that separate language and run all of the code in that scripting language without it becoming a security risk, nearly as much.
You mentioned, so I mean, we only have a little bit of the blog post technically to break down, but I know that we'll probably have like lots to talk about after that. But I know that you did mention, Ryan, that you enjoyed the combat action evaluator stuff, and I liked it as well, probably for different reasons, but because it was also addressing something here, if I find it, which let me just take the gameplay footage off the screen so everyone can see it. So it said, while it fulfilled its... So it was a thing that they made. It was a combat action evaluator. They talked about it, I believe, in another blog post or in another section of a blog post. And it was in the legacy engine, but they wanted to move it over to... Well, they say that it fulfilled its purpose admirably in the legacy engine and provided combat NPCs that at time could be mistaken for human players. Limitations had to be imposed upon it due to its potential impact on the general performance of the game. So allowing these, so it's this idea of like these fuzzy decisions that these NPCs make.
What do they mean with fuzzy?
Yeah, I'm curious.
I'd
on
say
that
they
too.
don't want. Like what I infer from the context is, in a game like Minecraft, your like mobs, and a lot of modern games, your mobs are fairly robotic. As in,
Okay.
they
predict
might
what
they
they're gonna
might
do,
path
basically.
towards you for this set amount of time, or until they reach this amount of blocks, or units, and then they might try and attack you. And it's this like set string of rules, and there's no fuzziness. There's no like they can deviate, or they might accidentally mess up a hit or stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I
Um,
thought.
It's like
So,
more
yeah, that's what I
randomness,
enjoy.
more like unpredictability kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
really interesting because like I've always like with the whole idea of them upgrading or like kind of like reinventing the factions kind of thing. Like this whole idea of them maybe like not just being changed like lore wise or like even aesthetically perhaps, but like this potential for them to have been advanced like behavior wise as well. Like I'm trying to think now, but like one of the factions that always kind of disappointed me was the Scarrix. Like they were cool and they kind of had a cool like hierarchy to them and stuff, but like I never really like looked at them and thought like, oh yeah, they're really going to outsmart me. Like it was never a worry for me. Whereas like I feel like with a more fuzzy like thing, like at least when I think fuzzy, I feel like unpredictable like wild animals. So like the first thing I went to was a Scarrick because I'm a Scarrick hater, but I mean I don't know, maybe not if they were like a bit more like unpredictable, you know, like that would then convince me more that they would you know, like be sort of arch rivals to the Ferrens rather than just these bugs that just happen to somehow be like clever enough to in you know, capture a faction, right? So that's kind of interesting that it touches on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole idea as
I
well
just
that
want
they
to
wanted
add.
to avoid server. Oh yeah, sorry, go for it, Håkon.
Yeah, I just want to add. So Sanders Mertens, who made Flex, has a blog as well, which you can go to read a lot. It's on a Medium. If you just search Sanders, I can add it in the chat as well. If I also have a read, and there's a lot of interesting points about ECS there, which go into like. There's a very interesting point about how we should think about games as databases instead of, you know, just hierarchies with intelligent agents and thinking of our agents as interesting questions, and it's a really interesting reads, but it's too much to go into in this stream. But yeah, it's something to go and read if you're interested.
Yeah, if you're interested, it's really, really good. He's an expert in ECS.
Yeah, he is making this entire thing by himself, which is very impressive.
I wonder like how much communication he's had with the team around like all of it, and because I imagine
Oh, for sure, a lot.
Considering the team is using his solo creation, probably a direct communication weekly, maybe even.
Yeah,
That's cool.
they're all in this subreddit as well. No, sorry, not subreddit, Discord server.
Nice.
I should probably not leak that.
As limited by performance concerns through redesigning the internal framework following ECS patterns and making copious use of flex features. Copious use of flex features, that was the term where I was like, wow, that's so they're really in deep with it. We end up with an equivalent which no longer needs to process this data in such an inefficient manner. We can instead smartly group all queries that check for specific information and parallelize them. It's a good word.
I had trouble reading that word when I came across it. I was like,
Parallelize.
parallelize?
They've developed their own fork. They've developed their own fork of Flex, which means they're kind of parallel developing it with him.
That's
so they're contributing a little bit back and forth, most likely.
Because I was gonna
as
say,
far
like,
as I
if
understand.
they're really pushing flex to its max, then surely, you know, like all good, like sort of like players of a game or testers of a software, like if you're using it that much, you're usually also the one that's making the most new suggestions and requests for additions and new features. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see like just how much flex grows from it being, you know, used in Hytale to like really push the boat out, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe there's other games that push flex more,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No, it's probably a communication that goes both ways. And it'd be really cool if it was. So that means Flex and, you know, the greater gaming ecosystem would also be seeing tons of benefits from Hypixel's usage of it.
And I love that they then... Yeah, go for it.
There's a part that you didn't read about the NPCs where instead of constantly being checked their actions, they have like an interval timer. Let me get the exact quote. I think it was interval timer. Yeah. irregular intervals. This means that we'd avoid any potential server slowdowns from a large number of NPCs being active in combat, but it could also make slower decisions overall, slow enough to be perceptible to the player, which I think was interesting. But that was for the Java-based pre-ECS engine. So does that mean with the current engine, there's not going to be irregular intervals, and they're just going to be able to constantly update the fuzzy decisions?
I'd say the goal probably is to make it so if there is like a visible delay to the player, that's on purpose. And that's like design, and that's not a technical limitation. I do wonder what Java entity component system they worked with before. I don't know if we'll ever get that info, but I'm curious if it's one I've worked with. It's a little selfish
and then
curiosity.
when I read this, my first thought was simulating gigantic wars with just so many NPCs fighting.
It took me right back to the
That was
trailer
my
when we
first
seen
thought.
that big army like clash. Like
Yeah, the top-down army. Like,
That's
does
the type
this
of thing
enable it
ECS
where
is
I can
perfect.
literally have 100 blue NPCs versus 100 red NPCs? Who wins? Because that would enable so much.
Hytale tabs.
Well,
imagine like totally accurate battle simulator. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if they're optimizing their game and they're focusing on this sort of stuff, entity component system for architecting a game is a very good pattern for that type of optimization, for having large amounts of entities. If you only have, 5 entities in a world, then using an advanced query system isn't going to, benefit you a lot. And I suppose a lot of this is both with, Hytale having lots of different types of entities, having factions and lots of these different actors all around. You need that performance both for the base game and for people to make creations, like 100 red NPCs versus 100 blue NPCs.
Yeah.
By mine.
Yeah, so it's beneficial both for quantity but also like complexity. Are you guys familiar with emergent gameplay?
I've heard that before in a video essay.
Right. So
Yeah.
emergence is like a concept where a lot of smaller things come together and make a larger thing. Like you might have heard about emergence of consciousness. It's when like you have neutrons that fucking
Neurons.
what are they called again? Neurons that make up a network that becomes something else that's completely disconnected from it. That is you, right? So you can have very small parts that make something very complex, and that complex thing is something completely different. And with games, you can create many different systems that interact with each other and create like entirely new gameplay. Certain games, like you might have heard of Noita, which is essentially it's a wizard game where you have a bunch of different elements, and these elements interact in very different ways. And Flex is something, or ECS is something that works really well with this kind of emergent gameplay, because you have systems interacting. Like you have room for much more complexity in this way.
Yeah, I think it's the thing with Hytale as well. And a lot of games where you're talking about environments and building out like actual living environments in your world with entities and creatures and monsters interacting. And in the case of Hytale, you kind of have factions as well, where you have a lot of different units and a lot of different entities. And like an ECS both helps you because you can build those out with components and traits and in a more modular fashion, where it's easier to share behavior between different entities and derive more behavior. And then it's also good for performance, because having these advanced queries means that it's easier to build bigger systems of AI and mob AI interacting with each other.
So the way I see this is they're just building a bunch of components that are fully data driven, So you don't really have to code much. You can just use components and feed them data that fits your entity. So for example, if you want to make a different kind of torque that just simply is a bit more silly, you can just add those behaviors that already exist and change and add fuzziness and silliness, and you don't even have to code if they give us like a big amount of components, a good library of components, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it lends itself to modding very much.
Hmm.
They then sort of underline everything, at least for that section that we covered just a minute ago. With, in essence, this means that NPCs can think faster, reacting to change in the environment and the surroundings much more responsively than they ever could have in the legacy engine. So just sort of tipping the cap there to the fact that, you know, whatever they've got now is bigger and better. So I just think that was an interesting line. Trying to resize the screen here so people can see, but yeah. And then to the future, just like capping off, ultimately this only scratches the surface of what is possible with Flex and ECS. Many of the parts of the engine provide interesting opportunities to optimize around ECS, from the asset database to stage world generation, and as both Flex and the Hytale engine continue to evolve, we only expect the possibilities to grow. But then nothing else. We don't get anything sort of like, we'll see you soon, or like
No
you know,
teaser,
like
no
here's no
teasers.
teasers. We it's just looking to the future, which I think so that basically sort of summarizes everything that was in here. Was this sort of look more into ECS and Flex in general, how that's lent itself to not only, I guess, the game being more robust, accessible, and I guess more possible to do things in, but also it was, you know, a big reason why certain things may have took longer than they were expected to originally, and you know, now it seems like it's all going to work out for the future. So I guess TLDR there if you have just joined the stream or anything like that. But what do you, I'm curious what your TLDR is, or what your big taking points are from this. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that, rather than just explaining things to me and mine.
You guys think? I'm curious what you guys think of this kind of development update, where it's like very technical, not really, you know, it's treating you like it's not really like spoon feeding you this information, if you can get what I mean. Like it is really like explaining it properly. And
I think if anything, like the fact that they're taking this time to explain it properly means they really want at least like the core people that are like checking for updates to understand it. Maybe like it's just a case of awareness, but then also as an idea of like, we saw that John mentioned or tweeted once that the creative tools may be accessible before the game actually launches. So this idea of even like preparing people just by like breaking it down, like their whole idea of like making it really easy to mod the game and super accessible to people that may not understand everything or have like the technical ability, I think also extends out to this blog post itself. They're literally going like, hey, we know that not everyone's on the same level, let's bring up everyone to the same level before we, I assume, go into like more of the deeper stuff about the Hytale engine, because I know that we were all sort of expecting a big sort of reveal of that one day, whenever it is. This feels like at least it's sort of hinting to that, like, hey, let's get everyone up on to speed on why we had to do what we did, and what that does, at least as far as I guess the ECS and everything goes, from what I understand it. But I know that there's so much more, which is crazy, right? Like, it's just one aspect that they've broken down here, and I can imagine that like if this is like they set a precedent for like, we're doing, you know, sometimes technical blog posts now, I wonder if that's going to be their new clarification for like, for those who don't know, back in like 2020 and 2019 they almost did them like weekly and monthly. This idea that maybe there are more...
God.
Imagine if we went back to like, yeah, we still have like just one big development update every 6 months, but in between we have these like little technical breakdowns that get everyone prepared for the engine and the tools. Like that would be so cool, in my opinion. Like that would make so much more sense as well.
Is this something you would like to continue until after the game's out, even?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, but I feel as well though, like once they've actually revealed everything and the game is out, they'll be more free to do things like actual dev videos, like dev vlogs of like them using the tools.
Yeah,
and
they don't
tutorials.
have to stick to a text format.
That's true. Yeah, but I mean, like, talking about this with the community, because it is something that is very Hytale, and it's kind of trying to introduce people to and make coding and game making accessible, and right, because they already have the creative play to Creative Pro or whatever it's called. They want to kind of get you into the interest of coding and different aspects related to game development. So I think this is a very good initiative, and I think a lot of people will be a little like, they might like, it's something that could evoke a curiosity in people, I think, to have people get exposed to this information, and kind of maybe they get some of it, and then maybe they might look into it more, and they might go somewhere.
No need
So
for
I think it's a really good initiative.
No need for a Hytale education edition when you've just got Hytale. It does the job for
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
I think
I mean, Minecraft has done that. Like, Ryan, why did you start coding?
I did start out in Minecraft 1.6.4. That was how I got into programming, was through Minecraft modding. I've gone a long ways since Minecraft 1.6.4. But yeah,
that's how you get inspired by things, and then it goes somewhere.
I'd say this blog is, like, out of the blogs we could have gotten, this was, I think one of the best ones. In the sense of, like, we're both getting some technical info for the people, inclined in the technical side of the community. It's also sort of setting the precedent for, like, this is a type of blog they can do, without, revealing too much of the actual game and the story. And I'd say it's a very well-written blog. It doesn't, it's not going to ruin anyone's expectations for anything. It's, that's a bad way to phrase it, but, it's a well-written blog. They use diagrams very well, and at the beginning there's that image that sort of says this is a different type of blog, and I think that's a very good distinction to make.
Very important.
Like, this is not a typical game.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I think that single disclaimer is the best part of the blog, just for the fact that
I think it's made people a lot more optimistic. I like, just from the VCs that I had like right after the post drop before we went live, everyone just seemed to have taken that as a solid note that, like, one, the team are like learning like good communication here. Like, it's like, we understand that there is a portion of the audience that will be confused by this. Both on a like broad level, like people coming in like that haven't heard about the game for like 2 years and seeing this and being like, wait, why are they not showing the game? Right? But also then to people like us, it's kind of like a meta commentary to like people in the core community of like, are you confused that this isn't like the thing you were expecting, which was, a big beefy blog post sort of thing. I think it's a really good statement to have there. Like, it instantly turned my mood when I was reading it.
I also think we'll get more of this once the game is out, because John has said a list of things that he can't talk about, one of which was innovations in the block game genre. And so I think there's a lot that they can't talk about currently that is probably a lot very technical like this, which I would like to, even if we have cooler things around when Hytale is we've seen the engine, and even the game is out. I would like to get like a proper explanation of all the innovations they've made. That sentence about, we can't share too much about innovations in the block game genre really got me curious, so I hope to see more of this.
I mean, I think they're going to be, but they definitely are going to be a lot more open once the game releases, because there's not going to be any, issues of spoiling, of hiding not ready things. The game's going to be out. We see everything, and then they're going to be able to go on, different interviews, different podcasts, different dev blogs, all of it. They're just going to be able to talk about the game and not worry about, have we shared this yet? Are we allowed to share this? It's going to be so refreshing to just see them be able to talk about the game and not. Obviously, they're going to be working on things privately as well, still after the game, because it's a constantly updating game. But as far as the game's concerned, we're finally just going to be able to talk about them, talk about the game with them.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a John Hendricks TED.
This blog post kind of feels like the calm before the storm.
That's exactly the way I put it. Yeah.
Don't get your expectations too high.
Dude, a
It's
TED
hard
talk
work.
though, a TED talk from John Hendricks would be
But
pretty
I
awesome.
think this kind of
It would go like
up,
We got
6
one
hours,
from Magnus.
Connor.
this kind of opens up a new type of information and blog post type that we can get fairly common, like from time to time, maybe like every 3 months. They can open up a bit more on the technical side of Hytale, and I think this is really nice. Like, it's really good that they're doing this.
Yeah.
I'm just watching
block.
some of this footage now, and I'm thinking, like, I guess one other thing to bring up is if they'll touch more on just the whole thing, like the you know, I'm trying to figure out a way to phrase it, but like there's so many elements to the game, but sometimes I do like when they talk a bit more broadly about their plan for things and for what they want it to be. And I feel like this was less of that. It was more of a, here's like a really intricate or niche like breakdown of like one of our core things, but there was less of that, here's what's going on, like here's the vibe, right? Like, so I'm curious if that is what remains for their standard development update, which they say in the graphic that they've put like the
Yeah.
I'm curious if that's more the route they'll take there, because let's be honest as well, I just want to put it out there, I feel like if they did have another update or something and all of this was in it, but then there was also more, I don't know if anyone could take that. Like, it took me a while to be able to
It'd be
break
too
this blog
much.
post down.
It would be
Yeah.
way too much information.
Yeah, they would have to be separate blog posts.
It would
Yeah,
also be
Yeah.
catering to like two different audiences, right? Like you have the half the blog post would be really interesting to one half of the audience, and then the other for the technical, like
Yeah.
interested people and enthusiasts.
I wouldn't be surprised if next blog post, whenever we get the actual standard update, they link this blog post in it. Like they show a new behavior of something and say, this is possible because we're not using ECS. You can read more about it in this blog post we released.
That makes sense.
Especially the
Yeah.
fact that they've linked different things in this blog post, which they haven't really done before.
Yeah, they've
It
like
seems like they're
referenced a
definitely
bunch
gonna
of
do
that
that for the next
stuff.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the first time they've really done it a lot. They might have done it like here and there once, but I really noticed it with this one.
Hey, so okay then. Well, I mean, any lasting thoughts on what this maybe could mean? I know there's a few things that we said sort of initially when we were going to
Hytale.
stream that we could, yeah, Hytale. But yeah, I mean, is there anything that you guys have like this has enabled you to think about something like extra that now you can do? Like, is there like something here that is like really like, oh, okay, that is like different, that's interesting,
100
it's
blue
quirky.
versus 100 red.
Full movie.
No, I think-
Hytale movie.
I think
100 blue versus
thinking
100
of
red.
I think thinking of what you can do as systems interacting rather than just like, I don't know, like stuff happening. If you have like a very specific you know
Oh, Oscar Garvin in the chat. Sorry.
Hey, shout out to us.
oh, yeah. if you have a,
What's up, Oscar?
if you have a very
Nice.
like dedicated way of developing your stuff, then I think you can make a lot more interesting stuff. Like, say you want to make a mod, and then you're like, oh, I want to make a dog that does fire. But if you think of it as systems interacting instead, you think of it as, oh, I want to make a dog that when it is in water, it turns on fire or something. That does make sense, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you can get way more interesting things to happen if you, if you're making systems
You
rather than
think of
just
it as foundational
stuff that
blog
happens.
and just a complex thing, basically.
Exactly.
I love how you were describing that
Yeah.
as like a dog was being shown from the Hytale trailer. Just brilliant, brilliant timing on that. Good
Every
job.
time.
Awesome. Okay, well then you hit it here first, folks. Hytale comes out tomorrow. That's the
Real.
news.
Real.
Hytale
Real
releasing in
news.
2 minutes.
Hytale
Real
beta in 1 minute. That's the
After the stream, you guys all want to hop on the Hytale SMP.
yes the
Dude,
Hytale.
we're not allowed to talk
Yeah.
about that on stream.
Oh, my bad, my bad, my bad, my bad, my bad.
I will say, yeah, I mean, I've got a planned week now because I'm gonna have to figure out a way to put this into a video that is a little bit more
It's
condensed.
gonna take a long time to script this video.
Well, I think I'll condense it just to be more like flavor texty for the broader audience who maybe aren't as interested in it and can probably look it up themselves if they are that interested in it. I think just knowing about it though is like my key here. But then I want to like start making more videos, so I'm like that's my plan now. I'm gonna make more videos.
If you are interested in it, though, look up Sander Merton's blog.
I will. I
Yep.
will definitely check that
It's
out
a-
as
it's
well
a
for more
very good blog.
context. And
He's
mine,
welcome.
man, you've been killing it recently with your videos, dude. Like,
Thank you,
have you
thank
put
you,
put
yeah.
2 videos out this week?
2 videos out this week. I'm trying to do 2 more this week with the blog post and the Ask Hytales. We're getting back in the groove of things.
Dude, it feels good.
That's
I
crazy.
like that.
Like we got a blog post, guys.
Hytale
got a blog
Spins
post.
is gonna be left in the dust.
Oh yeah, Hytale Spins is gonna be eaten with my videos.
I wonder how
There's gonna
long
be
it
a lot
will.
of content to
I
steal.
wonder how long it'll take them to get to the news of this.
Their content
technical-
cycle is 2 to 3 weeks.
I'm
It's-
sorry,
it's
I
2 to
just
3
clicked.
weeks.
I just clicked on the new Hytale Spins video.
It's it's my video.
Oh,
It's the
great.
podcast.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it's just the podcast.
It's so stupid, man.
Let's
My favorite Hytale channel.
Can we also just commend Evie for making another summoning circle happen?
Yes, and
Yeah,
Hugo for
absolutely.
predicting the number of days as well.
Yeah, I literally posted one
Oh yeah,
yesterday. That's
very
crazy.
good. Well done.
Okay, but here's the thing. I posted on Twitter a poll. Is there a summer blog post happening? And Mr. Hugo said no.
Ooh.
And in the Discord, Mr. Hugo said, accept it mine. No summer blog post. Clown emoji. It's not happening.
Bro, I just don't even know what to believe anymore. I'm just broke.
Believe me. I was telling you there's a summer blog post happening. And you were like, no.
Like you could have asked me a week ago, and I would have said 100% we get a blog post.
Well, it depends. It depends what you both mean by
I'm
blog
pulling up,
post.
I'm
Do you
pulling
mean,
up what
like,
I said
Do you
yesterday.
mean a
blog post?
technical blog post? Because that's a thing now.
gameplay blog?
That's an archetype. Wake up, babe. There's a
Yeah,
new
it's really
archetype.
It's great to see they're like using flex, and it seems like they're using it to its fullest potential and more. Like this was a pretty nice blog to get, I'd say.
Yeah, I said literally yesterday, would get the community together and bridge the gap into the summer blog post. In parentheses, it's real. And everyone said it wasn't.
You cooked, mind? You cooked?
I do
Mine,
it
why did
every
you
other
edit
time.
that message? You didn't say
Because
that.
I fucked up I fricked up a parentheses.
No,
I
no,
don't know
no,
if
you didn't say that. You
curse
just
on your
edited
channel.
it
I don't
right
think you
now.
do.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about
Oh, I edited it right now. True.
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
I'm
you
a
never
phony.
said that.
I was talking
I'm a
to
phony.
Mimikyu yesterday, and he literally told me we will get a blog post tomorrow.
Who?
He literally told me that.
Yeah, I was actually
We all
talking to
kind of
Noxy
predicted it.
yesterday, and he said that they're releasing
Oh,
the
wow.
game next week. So
Yeah.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's so wild.
I'm actually playing Hytale right now.
I'm trying to conceive of the notion that the fact that there's a distinguisher between like the technical thing and the development update, I guess the 6 monthly thing, I guess we could consider that. Like, what does that mean that we could get more this summer? Like, do you guys think that we could get like
I think
This-
that-
okay,
what
so
about
here's
what
the
about like
thing,
a
this
pride
blog
post or
post-
something, right? It's Pride Month, you know. Could get a pride post.
We do need a Pride postcard. I think that's
Yeah.
happening. They've done it every
Wait, did we
single
not get
year.
one?
We still haven't gotten one. I think they're still going to do it. They did one towards the end of the month last time.
Well, I wouldn't
Um,
expect anything in game because they're.
No.
yeah,
Last
right,
time was
pretty much
concept art. This time's going to be concept art as well. But I think we're
Yeah.
going to get a Pride postcard. This blog post is called Summer 2024 Technical Explainer. So I don't think we'd get another one in summer if they called this one the Summer 2024
But
explainer.
it has a colon.
Point.
It has a colon, like a part of a franchise, like a Marvel movie,
Yeah.
I mean, I could
Yeah.
also guess
like
2024
Ant-Man and the
relevant.
Wasp: Quantumania. There's a colon in that, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, they could call the next one like Summer 2024 Mechanical Explainer.
Or just development.
Technical Explainer 2. No. I think honestly, like, I'm hoping this is a genre of posts that we can expect more of in the future. You know, whether
Yeah.
that be, you know, another year or less than that. But I
Brother,
mean,
we're
I'm
gonna be
hoping this is a
playing
thing that
Hytale in a year.
continues. Optimistic, I see.
Hmm.
I'd love to be that optimistic.
Falcon is thinking 2027 right now. He has-
Yeah,
Well,
I
we
got
know
something to
we know it's not 2030. You know.
That's true. We can discard that year.
Yeah.
December 31st,
2029.
2029.
Hytale
Bruh.
2027.
Hytale 2027 is the worst thing I've ever heard. It just doesn't flow off the tongue. It's hard to say.
It's
Doesn't make
Hawkon and
sense.
Slamma posting that
so
propaganda. It's not happening.
It's not happening. What?
2077.
2028, actually.
2077. Hytale 2077.
Oh no.
No,
that's even worse.
no, that's even worse.
I mean, at this rate, we're gonna get a Hytale 3 before Hytale 1.
I mean, I think the game we're getting is Hytale 2 basically, so
Yeah, we are getting Hytale 2 because this is a new engine, but I think Hytale 3 is coming out before Hytale 2.
it's a new engine, every faction is revamped, new world places and systems, like it's Hytale 2 directly. It's crazy. We never got to play Hytale 1.
Hytale 2. I'm just it's
Should
so
release it as Hytale 2.
I wonder if adventure mode will have a name. Other than like
Adventure mode.
Orbis?
Of Orbis.
other than like Orbis. Like I wonder if there'll be like I don't know, like some sort of I don't know, a name? I don't know.
Wait, Buddha Cat in the chat can confirm it's coming built 7777. Julius.
Belt?
Before.
Before?
I really hope that means before, yeah. Not coming
Okay.
belt. Belt on
You can confirm it's coming
777.
before 7777. Okay. Okay, that
Buddha
makes a
Cat
lot
is
more
coming with the
sense.
belt.
No.
That's like
Okay,
on
that means it's before 7777. We've got
Well, John
less
already
than like
confirmed it's
5,000
before
years.
2030. So, unfortunately, that hint from Buddha was not very helpful.
their legal
It
It
limit.
was
Their
5,000
legal
years off.
their legal limit on what they can bring it down to is 2030 for the fantastical
Yeah.
predictions.
I mean, maybe Buddha can confirm that it's not December 31st, 2029.
That would
Maybe the legal department will let him say that.
that would be really.
It
really
depends. I don't know that.
But,
That's
can
a
you-
tough one.
I could make a
It's
10-minute video out
stretching
of
it,
that.
though.
Sorry.
Oh my
I already
God.
have. I've made an hour-long video about that.
Before, yes, thank you for the clarification there, but I appreciate that. Hytale, the prequel, says Powerbyte. Hytale 2, the
yeah, I'm
Quebec
playing
hate
Hytale the prequel right
continues.
now.
The prequel, imagine a prequel series to Hytale, like it was like animated like Arcane or something. Dude, I'm just saying.
Imagine we see a Quebec in Arcane 2.
Bro, right, got
that'd
those
be
big boy bugs, you know.
Background. More flash.
I'm curious if they'll do another event like the year that the first series released when they crossed over with
Right, it's
Hytale.
Arcane.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, right,
making
it's
a video
Arcane.
on that. I'm making a video on that.
What's happening, Connor?
You're making a video on
The potential. Wait, yeah. Wait, do you mean the one?
possibilities of a Riot X Arcane 2?
Oh, okay.
Oh, the possibility.
I'm not making a video on the 2021 one.
I think mine
lot of
is the
ones.
most optimistic Hytale fan.
Oh, I
We
definitely
can
am.
label him as that.
I definitely am.
I think that's good though. We need a range. You know, there's always been a range in this community
True,
of people that are.
We got Hugo and Hawkon and Slamma, the party poopers. We got me, the life of the party.
The overly optimistic one.
Temple of
Yeah,
Gaia.
you're always high in puppy move.
I'm always hyped. There's no reason not to be hyped.
You're high.
Since
in
we got a bunch of technical people here, if Chan has any questions, just I'm reading right now.
I think the
so
entirety of
just knock
chat
them
is
out.
busy asking Buddha for.
Yeah, if you
keys.
can take 2 seconds off asking Buddha questions, then we can take some questions as well.
Hytale 3, the Quebec's burned back. Oh no,
Yes, please.
not Connor.
Yes, please. Dude, imagine the first time you meet a Quebec and like you like anger it and then it just starts casting like fireballs at you. Like what? Like how melted would your mind be?
How to
So you
divide
know,
by
you
zero
know, you
in
know
the
how
chat.
Farons are moving to Zone 3. What if Quebecs are moving to Zone 4 to live in the lava?
Oh my god, I go to the devastated.
Wouldn't that
ones.
be a plot twist?
You know what it gives me the vibes of? You know, Ice Age 3, where it's like that, the meerkat thing, the sloth that's like under with the dinosaurs. Hopefully that makes sense. It's like that if you just found a
The first
Quebec
question
in
is
like
in.
Zone 4.
Oh, somebody
The first
asked, by
question
the
is
way,
then
how to
from
divide by
ins-
zero. Yeah.
Oh yeah, true.
Anyone willing
Easy.
to
You
answer
just
how to divide by
Open your
zero?
calculator and light it on fire. Insidious asks, Håkon Hytale when? I think you know the answer. Or my
Insidious
answer,
is saying
rather.
that as if he doesn't have the release date as well.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Oh my god.
It's like the secret Krabby
Saved
Patty
myself
formula,
there.
you know?
Saved myself there.
Lava
Working
backs.
How are we all doing? I'm doing great.
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm on a vibe.
Wait, have we ever heard the team say Quebec?
Yeah.
Could it
yeah,
be Quebec
yes?
the whole time?
No.
Yes,
Surely
they've
not.
done interviews. They've done
Yes,
interviews.
Okay.
they said,
Okay.
they said Quebec.
Good. I was gonna say, do we
Just
really
watch
know
the-
how to pronounce
Well,
these things?
however, though,
Like,
we
Just
haven't ever
watch the Buddha.
heard a Quebec. Huh.
We haven't heard of Quebec.
We've
that's
never
true.
heard the noise that a Quebec makes. Just saying. Just
Yeah.
saying.
Quebec Garden.
No, there's that
Oh,
one
yeah,
Twitter
well,
post
except-
Nazi
yeah.
did asking asking
Garden
people for the
special.
Quebec screens.
Oh gosh. I forgot about that. I
High
thought
tail
that there was a
shoes
reason I rubbed that
in
out
the
of my
chat.
memory.
Oh, the Quebec scream tweet. Yeah.
I don't even remember that. I need to find that.
Yeah,
by
I like
Noxie.
this. I like this genre of Buddha.
And he died.
I like that genre of John answers.
What genre?
Oh my god.
Quebec.
Of John saying, in Hytale, yes. In Orbis, maybe.
Oh my god. At that point, just don't answer the question.
The
You can
crispy
answer-
acorn.
You can say that too.
The crispy acorn's asking about fawns.
Oh my
no.
god. No, not Fonz. Hugo's in
Yeah,
the call
we
too.
get some bad news about the Fawns.
With some ads.
According to Hugo. I still have not seen the interview.
And watch the freaking clip.
It's not looking too optimistic for Fonz.
It is quite obvious that they're dead, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, when asked about the fonts, the response was like, you know, sometimes you have to remove things in game design. So I don't know. You know, we don't
It's
have a solid
quite
answer, but I think
I think there could be
it
references.
might be time to start the 5 stages of grief.
No,
definitely
no,
will
no.
be
no.
references.
My first one is denial, so I'll go through that first. And my denial is that I think that there
Okay.
could be like references to them having existed. Like, what if we find like fawn like ruins? I don't know. I'm yeah, maybe. I don't. Who knows?
You're being hopeful. I respect your
St-
fond
st-
optimism.
Stage 1
Game,
complete.
guys. Why are you so attached to them?
We also haven't seen the Slothians mentioned. in a
I-
while, or
I-
the,
We did,
or the
bro.
Clops.
I always
think
just
they're-
found it so interesting that they were referenced in the like symbology, like the symbol page, like the concept art, because it must have meant that their symbols were important at the time, like the fawns.
What, the
Work
Fawns?
right? Yeah, because they've got a symbol on that, the element wheel graphic. Let me see if I can pull it up on stream here real quick.
So I don't know how many people will understand this reference, but if anyone's here played Outer Wilds, the fawns could be similar to what the Nomai are in that game. A now extinct species, but we learn a lot about them through different texts or you know their forgotten architecture and pots, all of that.
Yeah, because I always found it. Yeah,
So
here we
that
go.
they could still be referenced, but they're now not on Orbis anymore.
I wonder if the Klops are still around. I hope they are. Klops.
Kairos lethal operating systems
Probably.
or personnel. Yeah, they
love
Is
that.
that? I've not heard that.
You don't watch
Because the
Canadian
Klops
Flash.
had like a
then?
very clear purpose.
Nah, I check in on the pod occasionally. Not the most.
Unless they added like another, you know,
merchant.
type of tradesman that
Yeah.
replaced it. Merchant.
There is that one like Simon tweet which showed us like a Klop in game. I remember that one. It's like
It was part of a
somebody
postcard.
tweeted-
I don't know.
Yeah,
about
no,
the
but
sign.
Yeah,
Simon,
he
like,
was
pointed
it the
out
one where he's at the
was
stall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like Simon replied to it, and it's like, oh, that's a Klop right there. That's a Klop merchant.
I always found it interesting though. Like I really do want to see more from the at least the Slothians, because I mean like both the Fawns and the Slothians were referenced on that symbol thing. Like you've got the Trorks, the Farrens, the Sand Empress. Like we know at least the Trorks and the Farrens, well, you know, it's still a thing. They've been referenced by John recently. No idea. I never knew what the Sand Empress was really. I just assumed it was like somehow connected to the Scarix. Then we've got Varen and Gaius, like the god and the antagonist, I guess, assumedly. But then like Slothians and Fawns are just there. And I know it's probably because like they wanted to like create like a certain distinctive variant style across like the key arcs. It is research, right? But I just think it's interesting that they were both included. And maybe they did have to cut them away. But then at that point, it's like, what are we going to see in Zone 4 then? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Or is Zone 4 the same? You know, they've reworked a lot of the zones. Is it still the same?
I hope there's still
Concept.
dinosaurs, man. Dinosaurs needed. Flash would be so sad if they removed
Rideable
raptors.
raptors.
If they removed raptors, Flash would be devastated.
Oh yeah,
Didn't see
his
those
heart.
pale
Flash
white
is showing up
monsters.
at the Hypixel office. If that happens.
On a real raptor.
Yeah. He's gonna ride a raptor to the Hypixel office.
He's
gonna cross the
making a
Atlantic
time
with it.
machine to go back to the prehistoric era. He's gonna get like in the Jurassic era. He's gonna grab a raptor, bring it back to Derry, and just show up. Say, John Hytale, you know, we need to be able to ride raptors in Hytale.
It's so funny. There's an artist in our community called Dairy Panda, and the way you said dairy sounded
Yeah.
like dairy, and I just imagined Dairy just getting given all the secrets by accident because it was sent to him like mispronounced. Like,
Sent to there.
we meant to send the beta. We wanted to send the beta key to Derry, not Dairy. Like, I don't know. What-
Okay, so Julius asks us what we expect from Hytale when it releases. Very good expectations or some thoughts on the back.
Say
I
it,
guess we
Gabe.
could take it back to. I guess we could take it back to the technical aspects. What do we expect from modding?
I'm gonna interrupt you. I gotta eat dinner. It is getting late. It was a beautiful chat with you fellas, and we gotta do that again for the next developer blog post.
For sure, dude.
All right,
See you.
see you, mine.
Catch you
All right,
later.
good night, guys.
You were
Alright.
saying yes.
Yeah, because Ryan, you are a very technical modder. Like you're making great aeronautics, and so you're a very technical modder. And with Hytale modding, how do you see that differing from Java?
I mean, it's gonna be a very different modding style. My main hope is just that we have a comprehensive enough scripting API, or you know, something of that nature, that we can actually, you know, dig deep with the modding, and that the engine is capable enough, and the modding systems are capable enough that the fact that we won't have access to actually modifying client and server code doesn't become like a point of tension or sort of an annoyance. I think a lot of it's just going to come down to, you know, if we get a future blog or maybe when the game comes out, or stuff of that nature, what our modding tools look like. But I'm really hoping that, you know, we won't be yearning for that ability to modify the client and server code, and that their systems will be capable enough.
So yeah, you're hoping that they will have because like I was talking about earlier, is the systems. You're hoping that they have enough and complex enough systems that we won't be, you know, wanting to add anything else to it. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
But yeah, I guess it's just that, like, I in a game like, you know, in a game like Minecraft, I'm working directly with the game's code, and in Hytale we probably won't have that opportunity because it's a security risk. And, you know, they want to lower the bar to make modding and content creation more accessible to the masses. But I hope that also means that sort of the ceiling for what can be done stays just as high. But yeah, I mean, I've got to probably head out for some food soon.
I was about to wrap up as well. I'm cool with wrapping up here because we're around the 2-hour mark, but. Yeah, so I was gonna say I'll let everyone say their last piece and stuff and what they think, and then we can chat after stream, guys, as well if you want.
Yeah. So Mimthew is asking about how if Great Aeronautics could be made in Hytale, and the short answer is there would need to be a certain amount of systems in place already for that to be possible, right?
We would need to either have the ability to, you know, modify very low level stuff in the game, possibly down to engine level, or their modding tools need to be insanely powerful. So I'm not sure if something like Create Aeronautics is possible in Hytale. If it was, I would jump on it as fast as I could, because I kill for the type of mod or the type of content which has like moving block structures. But that's just up to how capable their modding API is, or how much they've done at the engine level to support that type of stuff. So.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Håkon. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Hugo. Mine. Just trying to remember everyone that's been in the chat in the VC. I think that's everyone. I appreciate that. This is going to be interesting to try and figure out how to break down and digest, but I'm excited for the future. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Brilliant as you are. I will catch you guys and chat later. So